Welcome to the $600 Mystery Bounty. I will be recording every single hand I play in this tournament. Here in Calgary, this is my second series here. We have fired about 15 tournaments, 8 cash game sessions across the 2 trips here. I've never cashed, and I've never won a cash game session here. So today, we're going to try and break the Calgary curse. Let's get straight into some hands. Here we are in the first shuffle of the tournament. I am in the big blind. Starting stack is 25,000. Pocket 10s open up on the button to 600. Small blind folds, and we go for the re-raise here. We're about 100 big blinds effective, so I bump it on up to 2,400. A nice 4x here. My opponent goes deep into the tank before folding. Pocket 10s. He's even nice enough to throw them over the table so we can take a look. Yep, that is indeed pocket 10s folded on the very first hand. We have got ourselves a very soft table. Let's keep this going. On to the next hand. Now we're on the button. We open up the 10-8 off up to 500. Small blind folds, big blind does make the call, so we're going heads up to a flop of 9-4 deuce rainbow. Pretty good board. I'm probably going to go for the overbet here, but my opponent beats me into the pot and donks 1,000. This man just has a 9, so let's just not get fancy and fold. We're only like 4 or 5 handed, so the hands are flying in fast. Still on level 1, we have a limp from the cutoff, small blind completes, and we check back our option with the pocket 2s. 3 ways to a flop of king 6 deuce. That is bottom set. Beautiful. Not going to lead out here. Cutoff should be c-betting this board quite often, so I check it over. Unfortunately, cutoff checks behind. Heading to the turn, it is the 3 of diamonds. Now small blind puts out a bet. It's about 400, seems a bit small. And I don't think he's going to fold too often to a raise, so I'm just going to go ahead and bump it up. I don't think we have any other option here. 1.5k into the middle, cutoff folds, and small blind also folds. Unfortunate. This next hand, cutoff is open to 500. I look down at king 8 offsuit on the button. And I'm just going to be extremely aggressive this table. They're playing so passive. So I just go ahead and re-raise this up to 1,600. Folds back around and cutoff does make the call. Head to a flop and it comes down 9-4 deuce, 2 spades and a club. Cutoff checks, and this board we're going to want to go a little bit on the bigger side. So I size up here to 2.4k, about 66%. And we get a nice quick fold. So we're chipping up really nicely here. We open up the pocket 6s in the cutoff up to 500. Button, small blind, and big blind all continues. So we're going 4 ways to this flop, which comes down ace, jack, 4, 2 diamonds, and a heart. Checks to me, could go either way here, but 4 ways. I'm leaning more towards a check here, so I go for a check, and button checks behind. Turn is the 4 of spades. Action once again checks to me. I see no sense in betting here, and button checks behind as well. Off to the river, it is the 10 of spades. Small blind checks, big blind now puts in a pretty hefty bet of 1,500. This player is never bluffing here, so we just get out of the way and on to the next hand. The table's starting to fill up now. We have an under the gun plus 2 raise up to 500, and I defend big blind with the king 7 offsuit. Heads up to this flop of ace 7-3, 2 hearts and a spade. Check it over, and happy to see my opponent check this back. Turn is the 10 of spades. I elect not to bet here. He can have some hands like jack 10, queen 10, king 10 that just have us in very rough shape. And he could definitely also check back, pocket kings, queens, jacks, those kinds of hands. So no sense betting here. I check it over. My opponent puts in a bet of 500, a really small bet here. I don't think we can raise with just a 7, so I'm just going to decide to call here. We head to the river. It is a very nice looking king of hearts there. Check it over to my opponent, and once again, he decides to bet, this time for 1,400. I think it over for a bit, and for half pot, I imagine he's just gone ace here. I can't see him going this small, queen jack or the flush, so I decide to put in the check raise. I bump it up to 5,000. My opponent snaps us off. That is not good news. I roll it over and it's good. All right, we're up to 32,300 in our stack now. This next hand, middle position is raised to 500. I look down at ace 10 of diamonds in the small blind. Could go either way here, but I think flatting is a little bit better, so I go for the call, and big blind defends as well. We're going 3 ways to this flop, which comes down jack 6-6. Unfortunately, no backdoor flush draw for us, so we check it over and action checks through. Off to the turn, it is another jack, so we've got a pretty strong hand now, but I decide to check it. Big blind puts in a bet of 500, and then middle position goes for a weird raise here to 2,000, which just doesn't make any sense really at all. But anyways, we are obviously just getting out of there. On to the next hand, we have a cutoff raise to 500, and I 3-bet this player once again. We're still on level 1, so I've been quite aggressive to him, but I bump it up to 1,600. It's my 3rd raise against him this level, but he does flick in the call, so we're going heads up to a flop, which comes down really nice. It's queen 7 deuce, 2 spades and a diamond. He checks it to me. We're going to go for a small bet here, 1,200 into the middle. And then my opponent decides to go for a raise up to 3.8k. A little bit interesting. I'm a little bit worried, but it's pretty tough for him to have a 2-pair here. We do lose to 7s and deuces, and if he has that, then so be it. I decide to call. We head to the turn. It is the 6 of clubs. My opponent, he grabs quite a few chips. It looks like 10,000, and then drops a 5k and instead just bets 6,000. I look over his stack. He's only got 5.6k behind, so I don't think he's going to bluff missed spade draw on the river. So I think we just go ahead and put them all in right now. That's what I do. I move all in, and he snap folds. All right, interesting. But now we're up to 45,000 in chips just on level 1. Okay, on to the next hand. We pick up the Jack 10 offsuit in the hijack, bump it up to 500. We get a call from the button as well as the big blinds. So we're going 3 ways to this flop, which comes down 8, 7, 3, 2 diamonds and a heart. Pretty good board, for Jack 10. But big blind now decides to lead out, but this time for only 800. If you remember, this player donked 1k into 1.3k on 9-3 deuce rainbow. So this looks a lot weaker. This looks like 7-6 or something. So I'm just going to go for the raise right away. We've got 2 overs, a gutter, a backdoor flush draw. He has so much equity to fall back on. So I bump it up to 2,500. Button gets out the way, back on big blind, who thinks for a little bit, and then folds. Beautiful. This aggression is working out very well for us to start off this tournament. Blinds have gone up, and now 200, 300 with the 300 big blind ante. We've managed to go from 25,000 in chips up to 46,300 just in the first 25-minute level. Let's keep this momentum going. Under the gun +2 is bumped up to 800. Button has called, and we decide to flat the ace-9 suited in the big blind. 3 ways to this flop, which comes down king, queen, 3 rainbow. I check it over, and action checks through. Turn is the king of diamonds. I check once again. Under the gun +2 bets out for 1k now. Button folds, and versus player, I'm not going to defend. He did check back an ace on, what was it, ace 7 something. We had king 7, so he can definitely have some top pairs in his range, and we're just dead. So easy fold here. Nice and disciplined. On to the next hand. Okay, on to the next hand. We have a hijack limp. I look down at king 9 off to his direct left. I bump it up to 1,200. Unfortunately, we get the button as well as the big blind and the limper to continue. So now we're going 4 ways to this flop, which comes down 10, 8, 7 rainbow. Action checks to me, and this is probably the worst 9x I could have in this spot. Like, I'm going to have 9-7 suited, 9-8 suited, 10-9 suited, jack 9 and queen 9 are even better bets because they can make strong straights, and also have ace 9 suited, which dominates king 9 suited. So this is the worst 9 I'll have here. So I'm definitely not going to bet it, especially not 4 ways, but button also checks behind. We're going to the turn. It's interesting. It's the queen of hearts, so now my open-ender is a little bit stronger. A jack will probably give me the nuts. I don't think anyone has ace-king here. So big blind checks, hijack checks, and I think it's a decent spot to start going for some bluffs. I am going to want to bet some hands like queen 10 here, pocket queens. Probably going to check back quite a few sets on the flop and some 2 pairs as well. So I do have quite a few strong hands in my range here. So 1,500 into the middle, button calls, and now big blind, who has just sat down not too long ago and looks like a reg, bumps it up to 6,000. Hijack folds, and my immediate thought was just, this doesn't look strong at all. It looks like he's just going for this delay raise, but we also can't call because we're just dominated by all his bluffs and we're toast against his value. But if we jam here, we get hands like 10-9, 8-9, 7-9 suited, maybe some 10 jack 10 suited type hands to fold. So very happy to just jam here, deny everyone's equity. The pot's 14,000 in the middle, so that's what I do. I'm all in. Button snap folds, and big blind also snap folds. That is a huge pot coming our way, and now we're up to over 60,000 in chips. Okay, on to this next hand. We have the cutoff raised up to 1.1k. Small blind is called. I looked at ace 10 off in the big blind and already not loving this. This is the guy that 3x'd on the button with pocket 10s and then folded to a re-raise, and now he's almost 4xing. I think this is a fold, but like, it's really good price. I don't know. It feels pretty close. Anyways, I toss in the call here. Let's go 3 ways to a flop. It comes down 9-4 deuce rainbow. Small blind checks, I check, cutoff puts in a bet of 1.5k, and I'm just not going to float versus a range that I think is going to be quite strong. So just going to let this go after not connecting with the flop. We are now in level 3. The blinds are 200, 400 with the 400 big blind ante. And we've increased our chips from 46,300 all the way up to 57,200. We are putting in some work, and now we've got pocket kings and a raise to 1k with a cutoff call. We put in the squeeze here, I think 4K to 4.5K looks good. This time I go a little bit bigger. He doesn't look like the folding type. So I bumped up to 4,500. It folds round, and we do send the hijack deep into the tank. He gives it, a couple minutes here before deciding on a fold. Yeah, cutoff also folds, but still picking up a few big blinds here. On to this next hand. Now I'm going to preface this hand by saying I don't think it's a great play, but I did have my reasons for it. But I know that you're still going to go into the comments and type in all caps anyways, but that's okay. Under the gun has limped, and I raise up the ace-9 off up to 1,500. We unfortunately get a call from the button, who's very loose. We have the big blind as well as the under the gun player making the call. Those two players are quite passive, and the button is just very loose. So anyways, we go 4 ways to this flop. It comes down king, 5, 3, 1 diamond, and 2 hearts. Action checks to me, and should probably go for the check here, but I just know that button is going to c-bet a ton here with just air. And I'm probably going to have to fold like a pretty strong hand. Also, under the gun's probably not going to have a strong king. Neither is big blind, so I think we can put quite a bit of pressure here. And we do have the hearts as backup. So I go for a small bet here, 2K, button, big blind, and the limper call. So we're going 4 ways to this turn, which comes down the 8 of hearts. Big blind now checks, under the gun also checks. And now it's back on me. We've turned the nut flush draw, and I'm giving it a little bit of thought here. Like, I really want to give up this hand, but I just know that button is just going to jam with like 5, 6 or something. And if I jam myself, I could probably get him off it. But big blind and under the gun are also in the hand, but they have been doing an insane amount of donking when they hit their hand. So the more and more I think about this, I think this is a really nice spot to go for it. Button is extremely wide. He could have literally anything here. Big blind and under the gun would have donked if they hit if they have 7, 6 of hearts. Like, I feel like they would donk at least 80% of the time. So I think just a jam here works almost all the time. We could pick up the 15K in the middle. We still have the ace of hearts as backup. So I'm just going to jam my flush draw. I move all in here. Button snaps. Big blind folds. Under the gun snaps as well. Damn it. Let's go to the river. Come on, ace of hearts. It's the king of spades. We got the ace of hearts in our hand. Under the gun actually had a flush. I'm very surprised to see that. I guess the queen high flush does make sense. Kind of surprised to see him just limp call that hand pre-flop, but that's okay. And button had the 8-4 of clubs. This is what I mean when I say he could have anything. This man has 8-4 of clubs. Oh, that is a big hit to our stack, and I think the first real mistake I've made this tournament. Probably didn't have to ISO the ace-9 off, but against the under the gun player, I think it's okay. And then probably give up flop. But with the button in there, it introduced a weird dynamic, and I'm happy with my reasoning, and I did go for it. On to the next hand. Okay, folks, blinds have gone up. We are now at 300, 500, 500 big blind ante, and our stack went from 57,200 down to 38,200. So a little bit of a hit there. We only played 2 hands last level. We're a little bit card dead. On to this next level. Under the gun +1 has raised it up to 1.1K. This is the player that had the 8-4 suited the last hand. I look down at ace-10 offsuit, and I give it a little bit of thought, and I look over his stack. He's got like 33 big blinds. It's quite a bit. But just watching him play, I think we can jam this for value. I know this sounds crazy. He's under the gun, and we're jamming 33 big blinds. And yes, he is going to have it sometimes, and yes, we do get stacked sometimes. But I honestly think if I jam here, I can get called by hands that we dominate very, very, very often. So with that in mind, I do decide to go for it. I jam all in. He gives it maybe 30 seconds of thought. Flicks it in, says he's here to gamble. That is good news. He has the Jack-10 of clubs. Let's take a flop. It comes down. An ace? That's good. He's basically drawing dead, but the turn king does introduce a flush draw as well as a gutter, and the river is the queen, and he goes runner, and we are going to get stacked, and now we're down to 21.4K in our stack. That is a brutal beat. Okay, we're a little bit under starting stack, but we're still fighting. King 10 of hearts opening up in the hijack up to 1.2K. We get a call from the button as well as a small blind before big blind puts in the squeeze up to 5.2K. It's really small. We've got a very nice hand, but button and small blind can both back raise, and big blind folded pocket 10s to a 3-bet on the first hand. This man is not 3-betting light. We are just going to be in a world of hurt if I call this, so I make a super Super disciplined fold, especially considering we just lost 2 big pots. Very happy with that one. On to the next. Okay, let's try and win a hand. We've lost the last 3. Middle position is raised to 1k. We defend the big blind with the 6-5 offsuit. Heads up to this flop, which comes down 9-3 deuce, 2 spades, and a club. I check it over to my opponent, who puts in a wager of 600, a very, very small bet. I decide to go for the raise here. He's not going to connect with his board too often. We do have a gutter and 2 overs to the 3 and the 2, so I bump it up to 2,500. My opponent decides to call. Head to the turn, it is the ace of diamonds. Going to be doing pretty much playing my entire range as a check here, so I check it over. He fires out a bet of 2,500, and there's just no way we can continue here. So yeah, we fold. Down to 16,000 in our stack. It hurts. Okay, on to the next level. This is the final level before dinner break. We went from 38,200 chips down to 16,100 last level. It was brutal. We have not won a hand in a while. Let's see if pocket aces can do any better. The blinds are 300, 600 with a 600 big blind ante under the gun. Plus 2 has raised it up to 1.2k. We go for a small 3 bet here, 3,500. Not that small to be honest, but anyways, button goes for the overcall, and the original raiser decides to call as well. 3 ways to this flop, 12,000 in the middle, 1 SPR behind. It comes down queen, 9, 8, 1 spade, 2 diamonds. Not the best board. We lose to pocket 9s, pocket 8s, maybe queens. I don't think anyone has that though. But we could get value from 10s and jacks. We do lose to jack 10 suited and 9 8 suited. It's not a great board, but with 1 SPR and an overpair and a backdoor flush draw, we're going to move all in here. Button goes into the tank. He asks for a count, is thinking things over, giving it some thought before deciding on a call. The original raiser does fold, and we reveal the cards. My opponent has top set. That is pocket queens. The board runs out 6 and a 3, and we lose 6 consecutive hands in a row. And just like that, we went from over 2x starting stack to busting the tournament before dinner break, and the Calgary curse continues. Thank you so much for watching, you guys. Next vlog will be a cash game vlog, so don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you all next week as we try to book even 1 win in this hellhole.